Good morning, Bridge Kids! We're happy to see you this morning, and we're going to start with another game. Have you ever played Freeze Dance? We are going to play some music, and you dance with us. And when I turn the music off, you freeze, okay? Okay, good job. So, have you ever been outside playing and your parents said, "Come in, it's getting dark," and you just wish that you could freeze the sun and make it stop going down so you could play some more? Well, our story today is about God's people being in a battle, and the battle wasn't over, but the sun was going down. So Joshua prayed that the sun would stand still, and it did. Our God's amazing, and we're gonna praise that God. So stand up and sing these songs and give God your all in your worship, okay? Now it's time for us to talk about being a kid on mission. And being kids on mission means that we pray. And last week we talked about a family who is reaching out to refugees all over the world. And this week we are going to pray for a family who lives in Japan. Do you know where Japan is? It is an island country that is right next to China. And we are going to watch a video about a family who moved there and watch for all of the great opportunities that God gave them to tell people about Jesus.
Ganbaru is a Japanese word that means to tough it out, to overcome obstacles, and to never give up. This word also describes the Joneses, a missionary family in Japan. When they moved from a small town in the United States to a very large city in Japan, they were met with many obstacles.
People told us, you can't get into the hospitals, you can't get into the schools. And God has opened doors for us to go in and minister. People told us, you're not going to be able to get into the orphanages. God has opened doors for us to get in and minister to the orphans. People told us it's going to be difficult to adopt. God has blessed us with a son and a testimony of his faithfulness. People told us it's going to take years for you to see fruit in Japan. And what we've got now is something only God could have accomplished.
One of the amazing things God has done is to help the Jones family start a church in their pediatrician's office. The family met Dr. Shimizu when one of their children was sick. They soon found out that Dr. Shimizu was a follower of Jesus Christ too. She always wanted to use her clinic to share the gospel with the Japanese people. She explained that many Japanese won't go into a church, but if the gospel is preached at places like hospitals, schools, and nursing homes, more people will have an opportunity to hear about Jesus.
So that's what we're seeing at the church plant, is that people are coming in and they're seeing new life. They're seeing people's lives who have been changed by the gospel, and they realize there's something missing in their own. They realize there's something that they need in their own life, and they're beginning to be drawn to the love and grace of the gospel.
The Jones family knows they could never tough it out, overcome obstacles, or not give it up without God, and they pray many more people in Japan will know this too.
Even though your family doesn't live in Japan, you can still be a kid on mission by praying for the work that God is doing there. So let's spend a few minutes and pray for 3 specific things that it's going to show you on the next screen. So spend time with your family praying for Japan.
It is the Lord who goes before you. He will be with you. He will not leave you. He will not leave you or abandon you. Do not be afraid or discouraged. Deuteronomy 31:8.
Thank you, Gabriel, for doing your scripture memory for us. That was great. We have one more week to learn that verse, and then we'll start a new one. So keep working on it. And don't forget that those words are what God actually said to Joshua and his people because they were getting ready to enter the promised land. And a few weeks ago, we talked about how they got into Jericho because God did a great miracle of bringing the walls down. And this week, he's going to do another great miracle to help his people. Because just like Rahab, she believed in God and she wanted to be saved, so God saved her. There were other people that wanted to believe in God, but there were many people that hated God and did not like his people, and they wanted to hurt the Israelites. So let's watch our video and watch what God can do in the ways that he wants to help his people.
God was with his people as they entered the promised land. Joshua and the Israelites had defeated the cities of Jericho and Ai. They made peace with their neighbors, the people of Gibeon. One day, the Israelites came to a place ruled by 5 kings. The kings did not love God or worship him. They had heard about God's people and were afraid.
One king called to the other 4 kings in the land. He said to them, "Help me attack Gibeon, because it has made peace with Joshua and the people of Israel." So the 5 kings joined forces and went up with all their armies to fight against Gibeon. The men of Gibeon sent a message to Joshua, "Help us, save us. All the kings who live in this land are fighting against us." So Joshua and his whole army went to Gibeon to help them. The Lord said to Joshua, "Do not be afraid of the kings, for I have handed them over to you. Not one of them will be able to stand against you."
Joshua and his army marched all night from where they were staying, and they surprised the 5 kings' armies. As the Israelites fought, God confused the kings' armies and helped Israel defeat their enemies. The 5 kings' armies fled. The Lord sent hail from the sky to stop them. The battle was not over. Joshua needed more time to fight before the sun went down. So Joshua prayed to God, "Sun, stand still over Gibeon, and moon over the valley." The sun stood still and the moon stopped until Israel and Gibeon defeated the kings.
The sun did not set for almost a full day. There has been no day like it before or since. As the Israelites traveled in the Promised Land, they took over many other cities. God fought for his people and helped Joshua and the Israelites conquer the land God had promised to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
God gave the Israelites peace and rest from their enemies for many years. When Joshua was old, he reminded the Israelites about all the great things God had done for them. The people said, "We will worship the Lord because he is our God." Then Joshua died.
Joshua's name means the Lord is salvation. God fought for Joshua and the Israelites, saving them and giving them victory over their enemies. Sinners can look to God for victory over sin and death. God brought us salvation by sending his son, Jesus, to die on the cross and rise again.
Wasn't that an amazing story? Don't you think Joshua and the Israelites would have been a little scared to fight 5 armies? Of course. But God didn't tell them not to be afraid because it wasn't a scary situation. God knew that they could only do it with God's help. And he told them not to be afraid because he was going to help them. And Joshua knew that, so Joshua said a huge prayer. And he asked God to do something that seems impossible. And it was a huge miracle. So Joshua believed in God's power, and it gave God so much glory. Do we pray prayers like that? We should start praying big, bold prayers, asking God to do things that seem impossible, because it will give God a lot of glory. Now, do you remember what Joshua's name means? They said it meant, "The Lord is our salvation." And that name is very similar to Jesus' name, which means he saves. So Joshua is actually a picture for us of Jesus. And Joshua fought this battle, but Jesus fights our battles. Who is our biggest enemy? It's not people. Our biggest enemy, the New Testament, Paul tells us that our biggest enemy is the spiritual forces of evil, which means the devil. And we can't fight the devil. We don't have that kind of power. But Jesus fought the devil when he died on the cross, which we talked about last week. And he rose from the grave, which shows that he has victory over our biggest enemy. So we can win any battle. And sometimes we still see that we have sin in our hearts. That is a battle that we can fight with God's help by being honest about our sin and saying sorry when we do something wrong or when we have a selfish thought. That gives God tons of glory. That is a miracle, even in itself. And so we want to trust Jesus that because of his victory, we have victories in all of our battles.